Returnal was a game I reviewed as being my favorite PS5 game, a title it still holds. The intrigue of its sci-fi world in tandem with engrossing combat rendered it not just a favorite of the platform, but across them all. When you find yourself beset with the adrenaline of a moment's spur dashing into bullet hell, that by aggression your life is yours or the enemy's to claim. The gameplay loop is addictive. Since then, I've pondered how the experience would translate with the higher FPS and mouse and keyboard control. Now, I have an answer. Great. Visually, there's a marked difference. 1080p was used as the base for 4K on PS5, resulting in a softer image than a native output. Other constraints were made, for instance, in distant details. This is voiced not to discredit, the image is striking, but to highlight the need for balance to achieve it. Being able to tailor the experience to one's specs and preferences now on PC, it does impart new life into the game. Set the resolution to 1440p, the visual improvement is staggering, coupled with a wealth of options to toy with in real time in the graphics menu. This is the definitive version of Returnal. At the start, the game compiles its shaders to minimize stutters and operates a benchmark based on graphical settings. It stresses in a spectacle of a scene that won't be encountered in-game, but it blew my mind with how amazing things looked. Where the sentiment gets pronounced is in how it feels. The port features DualSense support, with both the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback functioning as they do on PS5. It feels one-to-one. If you're in favor of or curious about them, it's a welcome inclusion. If you're like me though, where rumble comes to mind only when using controllers, preferring accuracy, mouse and keyboard is a dream. Like the visuals, it is more fluid and responsive, to the extent of elevating the game. Every weapon gains a new feel when you can instantly target and track the enemy, playing faster, more lethal. It kept me in the flow state. There are moments where I've fallen out of bounds but was able to rotate the camera for a swift recovery, or effortlessly dispatch a spawning threat at a distance. Essentially, any friction from the input method is gone, and I'm doing exactly what I intended to do. Take the experience to the Sisyphus Tower, the endless mode of the game. It does become easier hitting higher phases. That's a recurrent theme, an easier game. It didn't take long for me to see the credits, but I know there is some bias when I voice it as I've been in Returnal several times now. There is no playthrough without hardship, and hardship is the prime culprit why many have started but never beaten Returnal. It's a rewarding experience, but being a roguelite requires commitment. Playing any action-intensive game, I regard 60 FPS as a criterion, but north of 100 were its best. The clarity and smoothness keeps things in focus, easier to track. It pronounces all the graphical settings of a game. With the RTX 3080, Ryzen 5800X, and 32GB of RAM on the high preset, with ray tracing disabled, I was reaching 100 FPS, but also drops into the low 80s in the 4th biome at 1440p. It's the start of the final half of the game, where the combat becomes more chaotic. DLSS and FSR are available, among other options to help with the frame rate. That helped me net an additional 10 to 20. Even on medium though, the game looks nice, creating an immersive ambience that I was stopped to marvel at, with a sound design that truly gives it a sense of place. The game also features a ray-traced audio option, which I wasn't aware was a thing, for, and I quote, better occlusion and obstruction accuracy. But I must make the admission, I couldn't discern the difference. If there is one, it is subtle, or not reflected in the instances I intently heard for. Then again, I listen to extreme metal at high volumes, having done so for years. I wouldn't discount hearing loss. There are occasional stutters in entering new areas, which was also the case with the PS5. They aren't jarring enough to disrupt the flow of the game, but evident enough to draw the attention. It's a con, joined by crashes. People have reported seeing them frequently. I've only had it occur to me once, and long after beating the game. It did suspend the run, allowing me to resume where I left off. In a game that demands focus, any pause is enough to lose momentum, so if you happen to die when you return, it will piss you off. My biggest con lies with ray tracing. Enable it for either shadow or reflections, and the number of frame rate drops as well as stutters will heighten. The image looks great regardless, so I would advise people to hold out until patches are issued. The developers are aware and committed to fixing reported problems. Until they arrive, I won't mind beating the game a couple more times. I would recommend everyone to check out Returnal, and with the PC version now available, the chance now extends to more people. It's a demanding game, but whose sense of accomplishment is given in kind. Whether on PC or PS5, the game is one to be experienced. I didn't discuss much about Returnal itself, so if you'd like to hear my thoughts on it, watch this video for a review. Thank you all for watching, and have a good one.